What's going on, guys? It's your bro Taylor,
Any bro Ryan here.
and we're both engineers who quickly realized we wanted out of that corporate rat race. So we began learning and gaining experience in investing in finance, and we've been doing that for a couple years now.
So please like this video, follow us on this journey, subscribe to our channel. We really want to get more content out to you guys that you really enjoy, and we're enjoying doing this ourselves. So please follow along with us. In today's video, we're going to talk to you guys about 12 steps you're going to need to buying a house. So everybody knows that when you grow older, you get to your early to mid 20s, you're supposed to settle down, get married, buy a house, but do we all know exactly how you buy a house? Do you know the steps to getting a house? Most people don't. I myself didn't until I actually hit the market and got into it and made all mistakes. So at this point, we're going to teach you how or the best steps you need to know and to follow to avoid those mistakes.
Yeah, and we don't want to downplay this or anything. Buying a house is a long process. A lot of people consider it one of the most stressful things you do. But if you already know kind of what the steps you're gonna have to take, it can take a lot of that pressure off and help you not get overwhelmed. The first step being super easy, just checking on your credit score and everything. Now there are, ways to do this. They're like Mint or Credit Karma. They're free to kind of look up your credit score, and it's not going to hurt your credit score or anything. But you do need to have an idea of where your credit's kind of at for like a traditional mortgage, if that's the way you plan on financing your home.
Yeah, and a credit score is used for everything. So once you know exactly what your number is, a lot of times you can just go on a bank's website or go to a mortgage lender's website and they'll say, for borrowers 750 and up, we're looking at these rates. 650 and up, we're looking at these rates. So you can kind of gauge what kind of interest rate you're going to have. And then from there, you're going to go into your second step. And in your second step, you're going to be looking at how much house you can afford. So there's tons of calculators out there to put in your income, how much you have in savings, plus that new interest rate you just found out. You can put those in there and just get a ballpark idea of how much house you can afford.
Yeah, and look at a couple of those because some of them calculate it slightly different. But after looking at a few, and they should all be roughly the same, you'll have a really good idea of what you can kind of afford in your area.
Yeah, and we've talked about in tons of other videos, but what you can afford is not necessarily what you should purchase. You always want to live below your means, and just because you can afford it doesn't mean you should.
Yeah, I remember when we were looking for our first apartment back in college. We were touring a whole bunch of different places, and one was a little bit more flashy and was still within our price range. But we kind of realized that that's not something we really mean, especially in college. You don't need all this flashy stuff, and that kind of principle has carried out throughout life and everything, or we plan on carrying it out through life. You don't need the flashiest, newest thing. Make sure it is something you can afford, but then look at the numbers, kind of gauge on whether or not you really want to invest that much money. You don't have to spend as much as you possibly can.
Exactly. And so we're going to roll into step 3, and that's to get pre-approved or pre-qualified. So then you can usually, once you know your credit score, once you know your savings, once you know you've done the calculations, you can call the mortgage lender, say a Rocket Mortgage or a bank or a credit union, and say, I'm looking to buy a home at what you can afford or what you're choosing to buy, say 250,000.
Yeah.
And they'll ask you a lot of questions. What's your credit score? What's this? How much do you have in savings? Are you married? Do you have kids? All the different questions they ask. And then they'll tell you, okay, we can give you, say, up to $300,000 at this interest rate. Now that you have this pre-approval, you're a lot better shape. You know exactly where you stand and how much you can afford and what you can do based on the mortgage lender, not just the calculation you did behind the scenes.
Yeah, and especially now with how hot the market is, getting pre-approved is almost a necessity,
Right.
And when the market was slow and everything, not everyone would get pre-approved and everything. They'd kind of start the process and get pre-approved along the way. But now and some real estate agents won't even really mess with you, or buyers listen to you if you haven't already been pre-approved. So right now, with how hot the market is and how quickly houses are kind of coming off the market, you do need pre-approval for people to frankly take you more seriously and understand that you are actually eligible to give the offer you're giving. And we kind of already touched on this with the whole credit approval and everything, but the next step would be finding a real estate agent. Now, not everyone does, but they can be super helpful and take a lot of the stress off. Bigger Pockets is a great way to kind of find a real estate in your area. This is all done through Dave Ramsey and who he kind of recommends in your area. He has a vast network, so definitely check it out. Of course, you can always Google, or if you have a buddy who has a real estate license, yada yada. But like I have an inactive real estate license right now, so I do have a real estate license. I'm not currently practicing real estate, but you can kind of just look around in your area who's giving the best rates because you have to consider things like commission and all that, but also sales record, all sorts of things go into or picking a real estate agent.
Yeah, and with real estate agents, sometimes there's controversy on, do I really need someone to buy a home? I can just look on Zillow. Or do I really need someone to sell my home? I just post it on Zillow. And yeah, it's kind of like fixing your car or fixing something around the house. You can pull it up on YouTube, but there's a greater chance that you mess something up.
Mm-hmm.
You don't know all the rules, you don't know all the closing, you don't know. They can save you a lot of time and headache and effort by just hiring them at a small fee. So in my opinion, a lot of times it is worth it, depending on the fee and depending on what comes along with them. And if they're expert in their area,
Mm-hmm.
of course you're saving. Like, it's again hiring an amateur mechanic or fixing it yourself versus hiring an expert to fix your car. Like,
Yeah.
you want the expert. It's a similar situation.
And on top of just the whole process, real estate agents know more of the questions you need to be asking,
Good
versus
point.
like all these lien, or if a lien is against the house, that can affect your claim on the home, even if you close and everything. All these, different issues that you need to consider and everything. Real estate agents, this is their whole field of expertise, So having them as a resource to kind of, oh, did you consider this? Having that person in your ear, that alone is a great resource, but of course they do so much more on top of that. But we do recommend getting a real estate agent. It can be a great asset for you.
But rolling to step 5, you start the fun part, the home search.
Yeah.
So you're searching for your home, whether you're on Zillow, you're on Realtor.com, you're talking to your realtor you just hired. Here are my criteria. I really don't want to go past this much. We really want to look in this school area. We really want a backyard. We want a fenced in lot, yada, yada, yada. You give all your criteria and you look and you start going through them all and picking your favorites and picking out and talking to the realtor about doing tours.
Yeah, this is the exciting part. And another benefit to having an agent is they have access to that thing called MLS. It's just a listing service where all the brokerages and real estate agents across the country kind of input all the homes that are on the market. So a lot of times those people with access to MLS will be able to see what's on the market before, like, say, Zillow and everything. These people have like first kind of dibs on looking at these possible things that are on the market. So it's a great resource in that sense as well.
Yeah, and so at this point, your realtor's found a great one, or you've been on Zillow and you've been on the house search with you and your wife, or you by yourself, or whatever the situation, and you find the home or homes you really like, and you narrow it down, and it's time for next step. We're gonna make an offer. So an offer, this is where it comes really, really important to have a realtor. So they've been through it, they've experienced bad offers and good offers. And they might tell you, hey, let's add this contingency because this property might have something going on here.
Oh yeah, because there are so many different types of offers and
Yeah.
kind of contingencies that you can put in place in the contract. I mean, your realtor kind of knows the lingo and jargon of all these kind of contracts and everything, so they have a much better idea, because there are different assurances that the seller can give you, like assurance versus like any previous claims, they can kind of cover that, or they cannot, there are certain different titles that they can put in place or not, and your realtor knows those keywords to look for, so they know to look out for you, because as an agent relationship, their job is to look out for your best interest.
Exactly. And also looking out for your best interest is, say you got your offer in and they accepted your offer. Now you go under contract and you go to what is called due diligence. You have a period of time to do as much work, as many inspections as you want, and that's going to be your step 7, is you're going to get an inspection done. Typically, you start out with just a general home inspection where they know a good bit about the property, and they'll be able to point out everything that's wrong with the property, from the grass needed to be redone, the siding being messed up, HVAC is wrong, electrical needs to be checked,
Roof,
and
all sorts of stuff.
anything you could think of. They do the whole thing. That's a good time to do your research and find a good home inspector as well.
Yeah, and don't be afraid to ask questions. Make sure you have your bases covered. Know what you're kind of getting into, because people aren't afraid to screw you over in this market. They'll try and sell you a piece of crap if you'll buy it from them.
And say you find out there's a huge problem with the foundation. This gives you your time to pretty much negotiate, to talk to the seller and be like, look, this needs to be fixed. I need this repaired. I just heard back that there's a huge electrical problem and it's not up to code. I need that brought up to code. All these things can be done in negotiation during due diligence, so you don't have to worry about it when you move into the property.
Yeah, and inspections can reveal all sorts of stuff, like, electrical, all sorts of things. But also, you may see this one part of the house that you can or consider legal living space, but in reality, it's not. A good inspector and everything and contractor will be able to point these things out, because these are all things you have to consider when you're looking at what value the house actually is. And we kind of already touched on it, but a step you definitely do need to include is step 8 is negotiations. Now, you'll be much better prepared for this after the inspections and the contractors and everything. And, there are tons of things you can ask for. You can ask, let's say you saw the electrical needs repair, you can ask the seller to fix that before closing and everything, or take that off the price of the house. There are so many things you can kind of negotiate. You negotiate your closing costs, negotiate the overall price, negotiate kind of what insurances the seller is giving you against claims and liens and all those sorts of things. You can really argue about anything, frankly, in a real estate contract.
And we almost included negotiation in step 7 because they kind of go hand in hand after the inspection or during the due diligence period. But we thought it was so important to point out that this is its own step at step 8 because it's such a big deal that there's so many different ways you can negotiate, so many things you can negotiate for. When I was buying this house, I was thinking to myself, oh, if I were the seller, I wouldn't fix this, I wouldn't fix that. Let's just send them this small chunk of things to fix and they'll fix them. And my realtor was saying, look, they're going to negotiate whatever you throw at them. No matter what, they're going to negotiate.
Yeah.
So he's like, put everything on a list. Everything you can possibly that's wrong with the house, put it on the list. Then let's say they do half of those things. It's still more than the little section I had and all of the things I included. Then okay, all the important things are done and then a few more things. So that's a good tip, a good pro tip that I learned asking those questions. So at this point, your negotiation's been accepted, you came to agreement, all the inspections, due diligence is over, we're good on a new price or all the repairs that need to be done. And once the repairs are done, always ask for receipts, make sure they're actually done.
Oh, yeah.
We're moving into step 9 and we're securing the financing. So at this point, if you look back or remember back to the pre-approval, that means before you've actually really been approved and they don't go through the hard work, they just give you the easy, quick numbers.
Yeah.
Now you go back for the actual approval and to make sure you can get the funds to send to the seller. And you go back to your Rocket Mortgages, your banks, your Delta Communities, your credit unions, all of those, and you get the actual financing. So in this case is when you're going to want to talk to multiple people, or even before in the pre-approval, you can talk to multiple different sources and try and get at least 3 different. So if you get 3 different, you can negotiate with one another and get your rates lowered. I got mine at a super low interest rate because I used one against another and was able to get fees reduced and my interest rate reduced.
Oh, yeah.
So that because it was such a big deal.
Yeah, make sure you're looking for the best deal for you and everything. And we reference in a couple other videos about how there's different ways to finance a home, but this is going to be the most common way by far. So, if you do want to check out those other ways, we'll link that video for you guys, in our channel and everything. But this is going to be the way most people are going to go about it. So this is kind of your way to approach it. So you have to be willing to negotiate and pin offers against others because, everyone is kind of looking out for themselves. You have to be willing to look out for yourself because oftentimes, the seller's not looking for your best interest oftentimes. Some of them are, good people and honest and everything, but you have to look out for yourself and make sure you're getting the best offer out there for you.
Okay, for step 10, our next step, we're going to be talking, you need to purchase a home insurance policy. So in order for the bank or wherever you go with for your mortgage, for them to loan you the money, they want to know their money is insured. They want to know the property is insured. And if whatever reason the house catches fire, damage happens, that they can get their money back. So you have to go and purchase a home insurance policy. So just like everything else, if you're looking for a new car, you're looking for a new mortgage, you're looking for a new home insurance policy, compare rates. Call multiple people. Call Geico, call State Farm, call the rest of them, and see who offers you the best rates. Some of them, individually, if you don't own a car, you don't whatever, they'll just give you a better home rate. But if you bundle your car, your home, and whatever else, sometimes they'll give you a better bundle rate at a different place.
Yeah.
So compare all your rates, all your options, and figure out your best rate to get policy on your house, because that's a big cost.
Yeah, we've all seen those commercials. You guys know to look around, and all sorts
Exactly.
of bundles for everything. But so moving on to the next step, we're getting near the end here. Is step 11, closing and moving. You're finally near the end and everything. It's such a big relief. But closing sometimes will be pushed out a few weeks from when you actually start making offers and everything. So like we said, buying a house is a whole process and everything. But you get to closing, there's going to be a ton of paperwork that you're going to have handled and still have to handle at closing, dealing with lawyers and all those sorts of stuff. So it can be a bit stressful, but you're right here near the end. Closing usually takes about 3 to 4 weeks out from your initial offer and everything, but oftentimes it can be pushed back even farther if you don't have your paperwork handled. So
And there's almost every time there's last minute paperwork that someone forgets. Supposedly you forgot to sign this, or they forgot to tell you about this, almost every time. So just be ready for chaos and be ready to last minute get a phone call at 9:30 at night. This paper needs to be in by 8 a.m. tomorrow, or we won't be able to close. Just be ready for that. It just happens. Paperwork is, because like you said, hundreds of pages are going to need to be signed in the course of this whole deal. It's just very common.
Oh yeah, you're going to be surprised by how much paperwork you're going to have to sign to buy a house.
But hopefully it doesn't scare you guys. Buying a house is still very, very important and highly recommended by just about everyone. But you got to make sure that, again, you just prepared.
Yeah. Oftentimes this is a lot of people's biggest investment that they'll ever make. So obviously there's going to be a lot of paperwork attached. There's so much that goes into buying a house. So be prepared. You're going to spend a few hours or multiple hours just signing papers. And at this point too, don't be afraid to ask questions when you're dealing with like a real estate lawyer and everything, and you're signing all these contracts. Make sure you know what you're signing, okay?
Definitely.
So don't be afraid to ask that lawyer. You're already paying him a lot of money. So, make sure to ask questions and make sure you know what you're actually getting yourself into.
I paid a lot to the lawyer I had, and I made sure I got my money's worth. He was not my biggest fan when I left, but I asked him what this word meant. What do they mean by this phrase? Why is this clause in here? I wanted to know exactly what I was signing and why. If it wasn't important, I wanted them to remove it. So it was very important that you ask questions, because pretty much it's going to be your biggest financial purchase to start your life. And a lot of people say your second biggest decision you ever make in your life. So it's very, very important.
Yeah.
Moving to step 12, the last final step, it's almost like an 11A to 12, but make sure you look in your area, your state, and your region for all the rules. But with homestead, go and apply to homestead. A lot of times it doesn't kick in right away. I know for Georgia, it usually takes about a year, but you can apply for it right away.
I know you're going to be exhausted after closing and everything, but make sure that you do apply for this. It saves you so much money, and it's definitely worth it.
It's usually a one-page quick document. You do it one time, you don't have to worry about it ever again, and go ahead and get out of the way. Don't wait.
Yeah.
And the last thing we want to mention is, like always, we love pushing this content. We love that you guys are watching it. But we're definitely not financial advisors. Please comment, like this video, let us know what you think. We'd love to hear from you guys and love to follow you guys on your journey to buying a house as well. So thanks you guys for watching.
Yeah, thanks guys.